Riley is at a hockey game. From inside her mind, Joy is the one who drives her towards the rink and makes her feel excitement for the game. When she faces her opponents, it's anger who takes control and pushes her to score a goal. Fear keeps her safe, looking out for any danger or risky decisions. He's the one who makes her look for her mouth guard, but when she puts it in her mouth, disgust steps in and reminds Riley that it wasn't hers. Riley keeps giving her best effort, but at one point, she decides to act maliciously and causes an opponent to fall. The referee penalizes her and forces her to leave the game for a few minutes. That's when sadness appears, helping her process her frustration and reflect on what she just did. Riley is worried about having acted that way. She didn't think she was capable of having bad intentions. This is where the central conflict of the movie and of Riley begins to reveal itself. The 5 primary emotions help Riley navigate and manage her world. After years of practice, they have achieved mastery. They all work together in perfect harmony. The moments Riley goes through, colored by her emotions, are stored in her mind as memories. All those experiences she has lived have led her to develop certain beliefs about herself and the world. The sum of all those beliefs has formed her self-concept. That is the image she has of herself. At this moment, Riley defines herself as a good person. This is the central characteristic of her identity. This will lead her to make an altruistic decision in the last moment of the game. When she has the chance to score a goal, she prefers to pass the puck to her friend Grace so that she can score instead. Her team wins the game and Riley celebrates the victory with her 2 best friends, Grace and Bree. As they celebrate their triumph, Coach Roberts approaches them. Riley and her friends freeze. She coaches the high school teams. If they manage to impress her, Roberts will surely include them in the Firehawks team. The coach invites them to an exclusive intensive camp for the best players in the district. The 3 friends couldn't be more excited. It's their chance to stay on the same team next year. Back home, Riley's parents congratulate her. However, she's not entirely happy. She still feels guilty about acting maliciously and causing her opponent to fall. She is overwhelmed by the thought that she might act selfishly again and ruin her chance at the camp. It's curious that a simple mistake has caused her so much distress. Why did it affect her so much? It's then that we discover that Joy has been taking all the memories that trouble Riley and sending them to the back of her mind so she doesn't have to remember them. To prevent her from feeling uncomfortable, Joy removes the memory of when she acted maliciously and motivates the rest of the emotions to do the same. Additionally, Joy takes the memory of the championship and heads towards the belief system. There she plants the seed and Riley develops the idea that she is a winner, which now becomes part of her self-concept. In the belief system are all the ideas Riley has about herself. That her parents are proud of her, that she is kind, brave, strong, and a great friend. She only has positive ideas in her self-concept. However, the absence of negative ideas is not because Riley is perfect, but because Joy eliminates the uncomfortable memories to maintain the idealized image of Riley as a good person. To preserve Riley's positive image, Joy gets rid of any conflicting moments like the one at the hockey game under the premise that the good ones stay and the others are thrown away. Joy's effort to keep Riley always positive and perfect is exhausting and unrealistic. It does not capture the true complexity of being human. Though Joy has good intentions, her method can be counterproductive. It is essential that Riley, like any person, remembers her mistakes to learn from them, even if it is painful. If Riley always sees herself as perfect and incapable of error, she will live frustrated and disappointed in herself. Additionally, she will never fully grow because you cannot control what you do not recognize. Acknowledging her faults and accepting that she can sometimes act selfishly or maliciously would help her better control herself and avoid repeating behaviors that affect others, as happened in the game. While Riley sleeps, the emotions rest. However, a noise wakes them up. At the console from which they control Riley, they find an alarm that wasn't there before. It says puberty. Suddenly, the alarm starts going off like crazy and the demolition team arrives, ready to change everything. They remodel the entire place, and since puberty is very confusing and chaotic, they don't bother doing things neatly. They install a new console larger than before and inform them that the others are already on their way. The 5 emotions don't understand anything that's happening. Suddenly, it's morning and Riley's mother goes to her room to wake her up. Anger touches the new console and Riley reacts completely disproportionately. She yells at her mother, extremely irritated. When they get out of the car, Riley takes a moment to cry. After regaining her composure, she can't find Bree or Grace and suddenly bumps into none other than Val Ortiz. Val is very friendly and starts talking with her, but Riley becomes extremely nervous and starts talking without thinking, saying awkward things. Joy notices that the console has turned orange, a color they have never seen before. Then a new emotion presents itself. Her name is Anxiety, and she says she is ready to help with whatever they need. The rest of the new emotions introduce themselves: envy, shame, and ennui, commonly known as boredom. Joy tries to stay calm and optimistic, reminding herself that the new emotions are there to help Riley in this new stage of puberty. Val invites Riley for a tour. Joy hesitates to accept, as it would mean leaving Bree and Grace behind, but Anxiety follows Val without hesitation. hesitation. She justifies herself by saying that this small decision could change Riley's next 4 years in high school. If she doesn't follow Val, she could end up completely alone without any friends. The other emotions protest, not believing that to be true. Anxiety explains that her job is to plan for the future to ensure everything goes well. She is similar to Fear in her role of protecting Riley. However, while Fear protects her from visible and present risks, Anxiety protects her from invisible and future dangers, those that are uncertain and undefined. She anticipates threats Riley can't see, ensuring she is prepared for whatever may come. Anxiety shows everyone the research she has done on possible future scenarios and their absolutely catastrophic consequences. This is why they need to follow the action plan she has already detailed. Joy tries to make her see that none of those tragic scenarios will happen, but Anxiety is convinced otherwise. Anxiety's appearance in Riley's mind was due to her beginning to perceive her future as increasingly dangerous and threatening. To understand how this emotion arises, I will analyze 4 key moments. First moment, Riley imagines a happy future, excited to meet Val and join the team with her 2 friends next year. There is no anxiety here because she anticipates positive experiences. Second moment, her optimism weakens when she learns that her friends will be going to a different high school. This puts the future she had imagined at risk, making it uncertain and unpredictable. Third moment, after learning that her friends are leaving, Riley looks around and doesn't see Bree or Grace. She suddenly feels alone and worries about feeling this way in the future. Now her vision of the future is not only uncertain but also threatening. Fourth moment, Riley meets Val, who seems to be her hope for avoiding a lonely future. However, her awkward interaction increases Riley's insecurity, intensifying her fear of being alone. It's at this moment that Anxiety appears and takes control, trying to prevent Riley from ending up without friends in high school. Anxiety has a brilliant idea. If Riley becomes friends with Val, the rest of her years in high school will be phenomenal. Anxiety takes control of the console and makes her approach Val to chat. The captain tells her it would be great if they were on the same team for the rest of the camp to get to know each other better, which excites Riley a lot. However, when it comes time to split into teams, Riley must make a decision. Choose Bree and Grace or go with Val. Anxiety tries to motivate her to walk towards Val. Joy thinks this would be a mistake. Riley came with her friends, and the plan was to enjoy the camp together. But she isn't worried. She knows that friendship is very important to Riley. She has her identity and values well defined. She would never betray her friends. This gives Anxiety an idea. She decides to take Riley's self-concept and tear it out completely. She sends it down the chute to the bottom of her mind so that her present and past identity, as well as her principles and values, don't ruin her future prospects. Anxiety has just expelled her sense of self. Having lost her self-concept, Riley decides to betray her friends and go with Val. Although in reality, being with her old friends or with Val are not mutually exclusive options, Anxiety leads Riley to believe that they are. Anxiety sometimes doesn't let us see the whole picture and instills distorted beliefs in us, like thinking we must choose between options that can actually coexist. We will analyze this in depth later. Joy is extremely worried, but Anxiety has a new plan to create a new self-concept for Riley, one that aligns with her goal of having friends in high school and being able to belong. The 5 primary emotions protest, leading Anxiety to make a drastic decision. She traps the 5 emotions, locks them in a jar, and sends them far from headquarters. Her reasoning is very clear. Riley is facing a complicated world and needs to be prepared for it. According to her, the other emotions are no longer necessary for Riley. Anxiety has just taken control of Riley's personality and as a result has repressed the rest of her emotions. Anxiety takes the memory of when Riley chose Val over her friends and brings it to the belief system. She plants it, and from it, a new idea sprouts in Riley. If she becomes part of the Firehawks, she will never be alone again. A new self-concept begins to form, but this time it is distorted and unbalanced. The 5 primary emotions decide to recover Riley's identity from the depths of her mind. All except Joy are frustrated and pessimistic. They complain repeatedly. Joy takes the lead and tells them not to give up. They will find the way. She has an idea. When they reach the depths of the mind, someone can use the headquarters tube to suck them back, making the return much faster. She chooses Sadness to take on this task. She gives her a radio for communication and has her climb up the tube to headquarters. Riley wakes up much earlier than usual. Anxiety urged her to get up to practice her shots. Every time she fails, she forces Riley to take another lap around the rink and try again. With each attempt and effort, Riley improves in hockey. Inside her mind, ennui or boredom complains. She doesn't like being active so early. Although we might think that constant activity is always positive, in reality, a little boredom can also be useful. It stimulates reflection, creativity, and problem solving, allowing the brain to recharge. However, if boredom becomes predominant, it can lead to apathy and disinterest. When the rest of the team arrives at the rink, Grace and Bree greet Riley, but she doesn't make an effort to interact with them. She prefers to stay with Val. Anxiety takes these new memories of when Riley has gained Val's approval, brings them to the belief system, and plants them. From them emerges a new idea that will become part of Riley's self-concept. If I'm good at hockey, I will have friends. When practice ends, ends, Val and her friends invite Riley to spend the afternoon with them. Along the way, they come across Coach Robert's office and see a notebook on her desk with all her notes. Val comments that this is where the coach writes everything she thinks about the players and whether they will make the team or not. Anxiety hears this and starts to accelerate. According to her beliefs, that notebook contains the answer to all their problems. As they walk, Riley observes how the Firehawks move and tries to mimic them. Additionally, when they laugh, Riley laughs too, even if she doesn't understand the joke. The Firehawks ask her what kind of music she listens to. There's only one correct answer to this: the band Get Up and Glow. Riley gets excited talking about the band. Val responds that she also loved that band when she was a little girl. Riley is immediately embarrassed. This means she is much more immature, and the Firehawks will notice it. One girl asks if she still likes that music, and Riley doesn't know what to say. She is embarrassed to express what she really likes. She prefers to say what she thinks Val wants to hear. Shame is the emotion that alerts us when something about us might not be well regarded by others. As social beings, we are inevitably influenced by others' opinions. Shame can drive us to deeply reflect and make positive changes. It helps us evaluate our actions and decisions, considering their impact on others and their alignment with our values. It can also motivate us to change harmful behaviors. In this sense, it can lead those who make us feel shame about everything to reconsider and feel shame about their own actions. To try to please the Firehawks, Riley decides to mock her favorite band and pretend she doesn't like them anymore. At that moment, Bree and Grace arrive and ask her in front of everyone why she is saying that if she loves Get Up and Glow. Riley's anxiety starts to worry and pushes her to laugh at her friends and continue pretending to avoid being alone next year. Under the pressure of being accepted by this group of older girls, anxiety dominates Riley, leading her to betray her friends and change who she is to fit what she believes the Firehawks expect of her. I emphasize, Riley adjusts to what she imagines they would accept. In reality, Val has never shown rejection or disdain. As I mentioned earlier, anxiety can lead us to imagine unfounded ideas and adopt distorted beliefs. This is evident in Riley's case, who has adopted the false belief that being good at hockey or sharing all the tastes with the Firehawks will guarantee her friends. We see the consequences of these distorted beliefs in her actions. For example, when the Firehawks invite her out, Riley tries to imitate their way of walking and then denies her own musical tastes to align with them. Riley is trying to fit in, but fitting in is not the same as belonging. Fitting in is like adjusting yourself to fit a space in a puzzle, cutting parts of yourself to adapt to what's around you. You adapt to others' expectations and sacrifice your essence. Riley is trying to avoid loneliness, not knowing that the most painful loneliness is the one you feel when you're surrounded by people who don't understand or value who you really are. Thus, this new self of Riley, driven by anxiety, ends up being harmful. Belonging, on the other hand, means being accepted as you are without needing to change or cut parts of your identity. This path requires courage, showing yourself to the world as you are, but it's the only one that leads to the true connections we all desire. The Firehawks say goodbye early because they have an important game the next day. They explain to Riley that this game could determine if she makes the team or not. In her time, Val scored 2 goals in the last game, securing her place on the team. Envy, one of the new emotions, listens to this attentively. Generally, envy is perceived as a negative or selfish emotion, so it's interesting that Disney decided to include it in the movie. Next, I analyze more deeply what this emotion is that many dislike and why it's important. At its core, envy is wanting something someone else has that we believe we lack. For example, envy helps Riley realize that she wants to be like Val and join the Firehawks. Additionally, knowing that Val scored 2 goals in the last game, envy motivates her to want to do the same. How can this emotion be useful? Researching this feeling, psychologist Niels van de Ven discovered that in other languages, such as Polish, Thai, or Dutch, the word envy is not so simple. There are 2 terms for it, benign and malicious, which reflect their different impacts. Benign envy can be a driver of change, pushing us to improve and achieve goals. For example, benign envy of Riley towards Val can motivate her to work harder at hockey. Benign envy can resemble admiration, but while admiration is pleasant, benign envy is painful. We admire those we see as different from us, but those we benignly envy seem similar, and this can be more painful. On the other hand, malicious envy is marked by resentment and the desire to see others fail. This type of envy is harmful and destructive. If it dominates, it leads to perpetual resentment and dissatisfaction. Understanding the difference between these forms of envy is key because it shows us that envy is not always negative and can motivate us positively. Meanwhile, the 4 emotions continue their journey, complaining repeatedly. Finally, after hours of complaints, Joy breaks down. She tells them that the level of self-deception necessary to remain optimistic alongside them is excessive. All they do is complain, and it is extremely difficult to keep trying when all they talk about is how bad things are. Maybe anxiety is right. Maybe Riley doesn't need them as much as before. Anger regrets his attitude. He takes the lead and urges the others to keep going. They find the path to the depths of the mind and continue moving forward. Night falls and Riley tries to sleep, but her anxious thoughts don't allow her to. The next day's game is too important. She worries about failing, not scoring goals, and being alone for the rest of her life. She feels that her social future depends on that game. This triggers her anxiety, who is drinking energy drinks to stay up all night preparing, thinking about the different scenarios that could happen and what she needs to do to avoid failure. Joy and the others arrive at Imagination Land, the corner of Riley's mind where her imagination flourishes. However, it is very barren. They discover that all the resources of this land are being directed by Anxiety, who is leading a highly sophisticated mental operation. She wants to anticipate everything that could go wrong to be prepared. She imagines that Riley misses the goal and everyone hates her, that Bree and Grace win the game and Riley looks like a fool, that Val passes the puck to her and Riley falls, making a fool of herself. Each of these scenarios, although imaginary and improbable, stresses Riley as if they are sure to happen. This is a very realistic representation of how anxiety can make us overthink the worst, even when it is highly unlikely. Joy and the other emotions try to balance the negative scenarios with some positive ones. They imagine Riley scoring a goal and everyone hugging her, painting her nails red and everyone following her example, or that even if she loses, it wouldn't be the end of the world. These images begin to be processed by Riley and her stress decreases. However, anxiety becomes even more frustrated. None of this will help her be more prepared. She discovers what Joy is doing and asks her to try to understand her. She's only trying to make Riley happy. Anxiety in reality seeks Riley's well-being as well as that of anyone who feels it. This can be confusing because of how it makes us feel, but let me explain. Anxiety is a natural and in fact indispensable emotion that protects us from perceived threats. One of the ways it does this is by imagining future scenarios that could be dangerous. There is healthy and moderate anxiety, and there is unhealthy and disproportionate anxiety. The main problem lies in how we perceive things, which, as we see in the movie, is influenced by experiences and beliefs formed since childhood. For example, receiving constant criticism can make us fear rejection and paralyze us at the possibility of meeting new people. Understanding this, we can see that it is true that anxiety is only trying to help, even if it sometimes does so disproportionately. However, Joy responds to anxiety. If you really cared about Riley, you would stop hurting her. This makes anxiety feel deeply misunderstood. She feels ignored and frustrated, which causes her to intensify. With this, the movie reminds us that our reaction to anxiety can either worsen or help alleviate it. Resisting anxiety or trying to suppress worrying thoughts generally backfires and increases our anxiety levels, as happens when Joy ignores the concerns. Therefore, it is crucial to manage our response to anxiety in a constructive way. In cases of elevated and uncontrolled anxiety, I recommend seeking professional help, but in the meantime, I propose these 2 ways to respond to alleviate our experience. First, changing our attitude towards anxiety can make a big difference. We often see anxiety as an enemy because it floods us with negative thoughts, but if we recognize it as something that seeks to protect us, although not always effectively, we can adopt a more compassionate attitude towards ourselves. Understanding that anxiety tries to promote our well-being helps us listen to it without judgment. This way, we avoid making it intensify its voice to be heard. We can allow anxiety to make its point and then thank it for its protective intention while reviewing and questioning the beliefs that make us feel unnecessarily threatened. Second, forgiving ourselves is also key because anxious thoughts can feel like personal attacks. Being too critical of ourselves fuels the cycle of anxiety. Forgiving ourselves for our fears and past mistakes allows us to face the situations that generate anxiety with more compassion and tolerance, thereby reducing its impact. To protect Riley from future risks, Anxiety has an idea: to read the coach's notebook. She believes that if she knows what Roberts thinks, she can anticipate and prevent any problem. Riley hesitates and wavers, but finally decides to do it. She walks to the office and reads the notebook. In it, she finds the words, "Riley Anderson is not ready." It is the worst thing she could have read. In her mind, this means she won't make the team, she'll be alone, and she'll be unhappy. But Anxiety is not going to accept this outcome. She decides she needs to change the coach's opinion. She has a solution. If Val scored 2 goals and made the team, Riley needs to score 3. That way, there will be no way they can leave her out. She is determined to achieve it. Meanwhile, Joy and the other emotions reach the depths of the mind and discover a huge mountain of uncomfortable memories. When Riley broke her grandmother's favorite plate, when she made a fool of herself at a party, among others. Although she is surprised by the number of negative memories she has eliminated, Joy is happy that these worries are out of Riley's mind. In the middle of that mountain, they find Riley's old self-concept, which is extremely weakened. Anxiety takes the most recent memory and inserts it into the belief system. With this act, the new self-concept is completed. Riley's voice is heard defining herself: "I am insufficient." Anxiety freezes. She realizes that her actions have not been as positive as she expected. She tries to correct things, but it's too late. Riley's new self-concept, built on so many distorted beliefs, is now deeply rooted. Joy communicates with Sadness by radio and tells her it's time to suck them through the tube to bring them back, along with the old self-concept, to headquarters. However, Anxiety realizes what is happening and decides to destroy the tube, leaving Joy and the others stranded in the depths of the mind. Finally, after so many obstacles, Joy breaks down, completely exhausted. She doesn't know how to stop Anxiety. Perhaps she must accept that, as one grows, joy diminishes and anxiety increases. Even so, she knows that Riley must recover her old self. Even with a broken spirit, she is determined to reach headquarters. The big camp game begins. Riley is determined to win and does an incredible job. Meanwhile, Riley lets her feeling of insufficiency dominate her. She gives her all on the field, but her behavior is very aggressive and malicious. Suddenly, she charges at the opposing team and severely knocks down Grace, her best friend. The coach scolds Riley, penalizes her, and forces her to leave the game for a few minutes. When Riley realizes it was Grace she hurt with her malice, she begins to have a panic attack. However, the motivation behind her actions is the belief that she is insufficient. She doesn't pass the puck to anyone and feels she has to do everything perfectly to prove her worth. She scores one goal, then another, but at the cost of not relying on her teammates and being extremely individualistic, a painful contrast to the beginning of the movie. Joy has a brilliant idea. They will use dynamite to blow up all the memories from the depths of the mind so that the force of the avalanche will carry them to headquarters. Disgust asks what will happen when all those negative memories reach Riley's consciousness. How will they ensure they don't become part of her beliefs? Joy doesn't have an answer but says they must try. They detonate the dynamite and the avalanche ensues. The avalanche of memories carries Joy and the others to the center of the mind. The negative memories begin to break into the belief system and plant thoughts Riley had never had to deal with before. Joy worries but doesn't have time to fix it at the moment. She reaches headquarters and tries to pull out the new self-concept, but it's stuck. She notices Anxiety's whirlwind and decides to go through it to try to talk to her. She tries to touch Anxiety, but it's as if she were a ghost, as if she weren't really there. Joy pleads with her, "Please stop. You can't be the one to decide who Riley is. You have to let her go." Anxiety lets go of the control and they manage to get out of the whirlwind. Joy restores the old self-concept, but none of this stops Riley's panic attack. Joy is confused. She thought this would solve everything. Suddenly, Anxiety says, "You're right. We can't decide who Riley is." These words surprise Joy. She remembers that she also discarded countless uncomfortable moments and chose which ones to plant in Riley's self-concept. Just like Anxiety, she also tried to control who Riley is. Meanwhile, all the negative memories from the avalanche begin to take root and form new beliefs. Joy knows exactly what she must do. She pulls out the old self-concept and for the first time lets Riley, her actions and experiences define herself. A new self-concept emerges, but this time it's not just one characteristic that defines Riley, but a series of positive, negative, complementary, and contradictory qualities. I am selfish, and I am kind. I am not enough, and I am a good person. I need to fit in, but I want to be myself. I am brave, but I also get scared. I am strong, and I also need help sometimes. Joy observes all these contradictory, beautiful, and painful thoughts that define Riley, and she can only embrace them. The rest of the emotions follow her example, including anxiety. This scene seems phenomenal to me, but I will save the reflection on it for the end. Riley begins to calm down. She can finally breathe deeply. She touches the wooden bench to try to reconnect with reality. The panic attack is over. Many people confuse anxiety attacks with panic attacks. An anxiety attack, although not a formal clinical term, is used to describe episodes of intense worry and fear related to specific stressful situations. In contrast, a panic attack is a sudden and extreme episode of psychological distress that causes severe physical reactions without real danger or obvious cause. Symptoms intensify quickly and include palpitations, sweating, trembling, difficulty breathing, chest pain, nausea, and an intense fear of losing control. In Riley's case, what she experiences is a panic attack. Inside her head, the emotion of anxiety spins around the console so fast that it creates a whirlwind, pressing buttons so quickly that it looks like a blur. This matches what many people describe during a panic attack. They feel disconnected from themselves, as if they aren't real and have lost touch with the world around them. It's interesting how Riley touches the wood of the bench during the panic attack. This contact helps her focus on the physical sensation and redirect her attention to the present and reconnect. Another useful technique to control these moments can be taking deep and slow breaths that lower the heart rate and relax the nervous system. Using other senses, such as listening to calming sounds, smelling pleasant fragrances, or looking at images, also helps distract the mind and find calm. When Riley looks ahead again, she sees Bree and Grace, who ask if she's okay. Riley sincerely tells them that she is not. She explains that the news that they were going to a different high school scared her a lot, and that's why she started acting so differently. She sincerely apologizes and adds that she would completely understand if they no longer wanted to be her friends. To her surprise, Bree and Grace extend their forgiveness and continue to offer their friendship. Riley feels deeply grateful to have friends like them and hugs them. She feels the sun on her face and breathes deeply. Suddenly, in headquarters, a light begins to emanate from Joy Joy and moves towards the console. It's Riley who is asking her to take control. Now it is no longer the emotions controlling Riley, but Riley who can control her emotions. With Joy back at the helm, Riley steps onto the rink and remembers why she loves hockey so much. She enjoys every moment of the game. Months later, Riley is at her new high school sitting with Val and the Firehawks. She is enjoying herself, laughing with them, carefree about trying to please them. Riley is waiting for the coach to post the list of those selected for the team. Anxiety is nervous and explains everything that could go wrong if she doesn't make it. However, this time, no one tries to silence her. Instead, they listen to her and gently remind her that none of that is happening at the moment. They remind her that they can't control whether Riley makes the team, but they ask what they can control right now to focus on that. Anxiety mentions that Riley has a Spanish exam she can study for. This recommendation is very helpful, and everyone thanks her for reminding them. Many people think that being mentally healthy is just about feeling good, but it is more complicated. The movie shows us that our emotional health includes a variety of emotions, not all comfortable, but all important because they protect us and help us grow. In the movie, it initially seems that anxiety is the villain, leading Riley to make bad decisions and distance herself from her friends for selfish reasons. However, as the plot progresses, it becomes clear that both anxiety and Joy are responsible for Riley's emotional chaos, as Joy fails to listen to and validate anxiety. In the end, anxiety doesn't change. What changes is how the others handle her. When she starts imagining catastrophic futures again, instead of ignoring her, Joy listens to her, calms her, and helps her focus on an immediate problem they can solve together. We learn that we can't control the future, but we can manage the present. Anxiety calms down and shows her usefulness by reminding Riley that she needs to study for her Spanish exam. Each emotion, including anxiety, is beneficial if managed well. The message is to recognize and accept each emotion without letting any one of them completely dominate our decisions. Riley receives a message from Bree and Grace wishing her good luck with the selection. Val also wishes her luck, but reminds her that if she doesn't make the team this year, there is always next year. Riley responds calmly and with a smile. I know, Anxiety and Joy are extremely proud of their girl. Riley is super smart, creative, and good at hockey, but she can also be very sarcastic, hard on herself, have bad ideas, and not always do the right thing. However, all these facets make up who Riley is, and they love her entirely, with her virtues and flaws, with her joy, anxiety, sadness, anger, and everything else. Riley's phone vibrates. She knows what this means, the list of those selected. She opens her phone, her face lights up, and the movie ends. It's unclear whether Riley makes the team or not. This ambiguous ending is intentional. Throughout the movie, Riley learns to manage her insecurity. Both she and her anxiety have learned that it's not worth worrying too much about things they can't control. Therefore, the result of the team selection is no longer as important. In the end, neither of Riley's self-perceptions, I am a good person, nor I am not enough, completely captures who she really is. Her crisis is resolved when joy and anxiety allow Riley to develop a new image of herself, one that includes all her complexity and all her feelings, memories, and beliefs, including the negative. Riley is a good friend, and sometimes she is selfish, she's honest, and sometimes she acts poorly. She's confident, but she also has doubts. No one can be perfectly happy or good all the time. It is unrealistic and exhausting. To mature healthily, it is essential to recognize that we have many facets, which can sometimes be contradictory. The parts of us that we consider negative are also part of who we are, and we shouldn't ignore them. It is essential to recognize and not repress them. The important thing is to have a clear and complete vision of ourselves, accept our flaws, and despite them, see ourselves as worthy and valuable beings. More than telling yourself a simplified version of who you are, ignoring evidence to the contrary, it is important to see yourself as you are, with all your flaws. Accept this balance and be less critical of yourself. The essential thing is to recognize your imperfections, but still consider yourself a perfectly worthy and valuable human being.